Hi, this is part two on the last video I did, which was truths about slow travel that nobody really talks about. And I have more, so I'm going to add another video, obviously. I'm hanging on to my mic so I don't hit it so much because I tend to hit it when I attach it to my clothes. So I'll try not to do that. Let's see. So slow travel is amazing. I absolutely love it. But it's not all sunsets and sangria. So in part one, I talked about the dirty laundry, the hot weather, some of the food quirks, the little daily struggles. And today I'm going to talk about some more truths that I left out. So I hope you find this interesting and that it maybe informs you a little bit about things that you hadn't thought about. And if it sounds negative, some of the things may sound negative, but I still absolutely love slow traveling. But these were things that some of them I didn't expect because, you just don't know what to expect necessarily if you are new to travel. Okay, so first of all is the kitchens and the cooking realities. And I'm talking mostly about Airbnbs, clearly, because you often don't have a kitchen in a hotel room. Some you do, but anyways, the knives are usually dull. I've been very lucky in the one I'm in now in Bulgaria. I'm currently in Bulgaria, in Bansko, Bulgaria, but they aren't always. And I've never found a knife sharpener in any of them. So they're often very dull. I think it's just something that hosts forget. They think about cleaning the place after someone's left, but they don't necessarily think about getting the knife sharp. So you also might need to buy a better spatula. I've had a few where I'm trying to turn over my eggs, for example. I'm cooking eggs and I want to, cooking over easy and I want to turn them over. And they have like a round spatula, but they don't really have a flipping type spatula. I've bought a few. You might need a better corkscrew if you like wine. And some of them have been stocked, really well stocked kitchens, but not all of them. And some of them you might have a little salt and pepper or a little sugar, but be prepared to have to buy some seasonings. And when you slow travel like I do, where you're staying for a long time, you will want to cook at home. You can't eat every meal out, and you will want some seasoning. Let's see. Sometimes you won't even have an oven. I haven't in every one of them. Sometimes you won't have a microwave. Don't assume that you will. And some you won't have a coffee maker. And you don't always have a lot of burners either. I've had a hot plate in one of my Airbnbs, and I've had a 2-burner stove. Currently, I have 2 burners. That's fine for little old me. And I'm lucky to have an oven in this one. And I even have a dishwasher, which I never use a dishwasher. It's just me. I don't have that many dishes that I need a dishwasher. But the dishwasher comes in handy because I can use it as a drying rack. And that's what I use it for. So, because you don't always have a lot of counter space either. Let's see. So some of the housing surprises. Now, I've shared space in 3 different Airbnbs. I shared space in an Airbnb in Spain, and that shared kitchen and bath. I shared space in a place in Malaga, Spain, and I shared space. Where was the other one? Oh, for a month in Montenegro, my first Airbnb there, and it was kind of nice. It was a very well stocked kitchen. It was huge and it was really well stocked. I mean, there was nothing missing in that kitchen, and it was also. I've never felt unsafe in any place that I've been. Been very blessed by that, but this was a women's only. She rented to women only. And there was one time where I was just there by myself because no other women were coming in for about a week. And she had a man that wanted to rent. And she asked me, because if I hadn't been there, she would have rented to him by himself. But other than that, it was if there was more than one woman wanting to rent at the same time, there were like 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, so you only had one shared bath. It was she wouldn't rent to men, and she asked me in case I might have said sure, that's fine, I don't mind, but I did mind. So anyway, so she didn't. But yeah, you will share kitchens and baths, and that can happen. Um, and I was very blessed. I mean, everything was very, very clean. Um, and the woman and the couple that I lived with in Spain, my God, I love them dearly. But anyways, she cleaned that kitchen and that bath daily. She cleaned that whole place daily, including my room. I mean, that place was spotless. But yeah, when you're staying for a long time, you obviously clean as you go along yourself, and usually you'll have the supplies to do that. But be prepared that you may not. You may have to buy something. But also be prepared for some places, it's not always spotless. And what I mean by that is, well, sometimes they don't clean so well, but also they don't always think about cleaning all the dishes. And so I tend to clean when I get there. I tend to look at all the dishes and I'll clean them. But sometimes it's very obvious that they've run it through a dishwasher and it's really clean. And that's really nice. The place I'm in now, they had professional cleaners, clearly. This place, there wasn't a speck of dust anywhere. It was spotless. And a lot of places I've been in, they have white bedding, and that's very telling. If they have white bedding, this place is clean. Okay, let's see. But yeah, dirty dishes or less than clean bathrooms are realities. You may even have some mold. You may have very minimal bedding. The beds may be hard. I think I might have said this in the last one, or pillows that are kind of hard. You may not have you may not have very many. You may not have a change of bedding. I've been very blessed that I have, but you can always ask your host. And of course, when you're in hotels, that's not a problem. Curtains. This one surprised me because I've been in a few places where there were no curtains, even the bedroom. Or, well, no, the bedroom had curtains, but you could see through them in the dark. So basically at nighttime, I just slept in there. And, it didn't matter in the daytime when people can't see in. If the curtains are very thin, like the ones behind me, they have thicker curtains. But one place it was very thin, like the white drapes behind me. And at nighttime, that makes me uncomfortable. Or no curtains, like in the kitchen or living room. That makes me uncomfortable because I feel like I'm exposed at nighttime. Like, hello, you can see me, I can't see out. And I would often put towels up over the windows. And in one place, I did have very thin curtains in the bedroom. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go change in the bathroom into my pajamas or whatever. And, but I would never dress or undress in front of that window, obviously. But that can happen too. Sometimes you'll have blackout shades and that's really, really nice. The walls can be thin. So sometimes you can hear your neighbors. The street, you may be on a noisy street, traffic-wise or party-wise. You may, if there's an elevator, it might be old and creaky. That was how it was in Buenos Aires, and I got used to it real fast. It was kind of jerky, and it was like, whoa, but it was just old. The elevator may be very small, and there's often no elevator at all. So you want to check on that before you book a place. And that can happen in hotels too. And I've had a couple hotels where I had to, there were just stairs only, but of course they took my luggage up and down for me, which was really nice, but don't assume that they will. Let's see, be ready to carry your groceries and your luggage up a lot of stairs. And I had like 4 flights of very steep stairs. when I was in my first Airbnb in Spain, in Madrid. And it got me in shape, and I kind of liked that. But I was also blessed that my host helped me when I arrived and when I left to carry my luggage down. That was very kind of her. Let's see. Don't expect window screens. I think I've had them in one place. I can only think of one place where I've actually had screens. So the bugs can get in. I have never been in a place where it was a problem really with bugs like mosquitoes and things like that. But in Montenegro, I did have a cockroach crawl on me while I was sleeping. That was not a pleasant experience. And I mean, I'm not talking about, place. The place wasn't infested with cockroaches, but you will find things like that in different countries. I mean, I'm from Arizona and we had cockroaches. They're around. But anyways, let's see. Things do go wrong. In Spain, the water heat in my first place in Spain, in Madrid, the water heater in the bathroom, it broke right before Christmas. And of course, a holiday and a weekend time coming up, it took a few days for it to be replaced, quite a few days. And I didn't stress over it at all. My host gave me a discount, and I treated myself to a beautiful hotel in Madrid for a few days over the Christmas holiday. And it was the best decision ever. I loved it. In Montenegro, we had multiple power outages during a heat wave of like 107. I talked about that in my first video, or my last video. But so that can happen, and it can go out for a few hours. It happened in Turkey also a few times. So, be prepared for that as far as like, your food maybe go bad in your fridge. I never really had that problem, luckily, but you may not have air conditioning during a heat wave. And let's see. In Turkey, the internet went down quite a bit when I was in Finike, and that was frustrating at times, but it was just the location. And ventilation can be poor, and showers it can grow mold fast, so just be aware of that. Showers are often just handheld. Can't hang them up. That's something to get used to. I'm not a big fan of that. I always check the bathrooms to make sure that, yeah, I don't have to do that. But sometimes you do, because it's just everything else about the Airbnb is good, and you live with it. But let's see what else. Oh yeah, and then there's some where the entire bathroom just gets soaked. It's just a shower on the wall, and the whole bathroom would get soaked. And it's more common in like Southeast Asia. I haven't been there yet, but I know it is. And it dries really fast there. But like in Turkey, even though I had a shower with the shower curtain and stuff, it still got the bathroom all wet, and I would have to squeegee. There's like a drain in the middle of the bathroom as well as the shower, and I squeegee it into the drain and that kind of thing. So you got to clean it up afterwards. I'm not a big fan of that, but sometimes you have that. And also a pro tip, I always will get a cheap pair of flip-flops or carry some with me for unfamiliar showers. It's just nice to have a pair of flip-flops to wear in the shower, especially if it's kind of ippy. Let's see. Grocery and daily life challenges. Be prepared to I said this already, I think, but be prepared to haul your groceries uphill, some steep hills, especially when I was in Turkey and in Spain, up the stairs, like I said, might be 4 or 5 flights, and the stairs can be very steep, um, or across town. It may not be a grocery store a block away. Um, don't buy more than you can carry. They don't always provide bags in the stores. I carry bags with me, and you can often buy bags. But I have like a vinyl bag that I can carry my groceries in, and it doesn't take any space up in my suitcase. Fridges can be small because you shop more daily in a lot of these countries for fresh fruit and veggies and things. So you just buy what you need. Also, because they have to carry it, they don't want to, carry a whole fridge full of groceries. Supermarkets and restaurants outside the tourist zones often close on Sundays. They did in Montenegro, and holidays. And in Montenegro, when there was a holiday that I wasn't aware of, so try and be aware of the holidays, the store was closed on Sunday. I was prepared for that, but they also closed the following 2 days for a holiday that I wasn't prepared for. And I was in a more local neighborhood. And it was a long way to the tourist area, but um, a lot of the restaurants will also close. And I was not prepared for that, but I survived. Let's see. Streets can be wide and terrifying to cross, especially in Montenegro. They drive really, really fast in Montenegro. And I mean, the Montenegrins would just be like, they just walk right out on the street in the crosswalk. And I'm just like, and people would just come screaming up in the cars, and they like to drive fast. And then they'd stop, but I was never sure. I'm just like, are you going to stop? And so it was very intimidating to cross streets in Montenegro, I found, at least in Podgorica. There can be forest fires. There was a forest fire really close to where I lived in Montenegro. I wasn't in danger, but it does happen. And I wasn't sure at first if I was in danger or not. And it was very scary. My host assured me I was, and I was. But, then also you have the smoke from the fires, but that can happen. And also the power went out when there's a fire, and when it's 107 degrees, it can be very uncomfortable. The bugs, did I already say this? I'm not sure. But yeah, I've dealt with cockroaches, mosquitoes, all kinds of creepy crawlies, and different kinds of spiders. You're never sure what kind of spider it is. And, that can happen. Oh, snakes. Yeah, I actually had when I was in Turkey, in an Airbnb up in the hills overlooking the water. It was beautiful. I'm not sure if I put it on here yet, but if I didn't, I'll get to it at some point. But that Airbnb was really cool. But I had a black snake, and I know there's like a black snake in Turkey that's very venomous. It looked like a baby, but I got up in the middle of the night, and of course I was wearing flip-flops, but I got up in the middle of the night, and I had stepped on him, and I didn't realize it. And I came back from the bathroom, and then I saw him, and because I think I turned the light on, and I saw him, and he was right in the hall between my bedroom and bathroom, and that was weird because I didn't know what kind of snake it was. And unfortunately for the snake, because I had stepped on him already, he was injured and he didn't make it. But I didn't kill him on purpose, but I never did really see what kind of snake it was. But I picked him up with tongs and put him outside. I hadn't realized he was so injured at the time, but I got a pair of tongs from the kitchen and picked him up and put him outside. And then I saw the next morning he hadn't made it. So that made me kind of sad. But yeah, I don't know if it was a dangerous kind of snake or not. But you'll encounter things like that occasionally. Now this isn't just a travel tip. This is just my opinion, but I never store my toothbrush in a bathroom anywhere. I haven't stored my toothbrush in a bathroom in probably over 10 years. Um, Always flush the toilet with the lid closed. But even though I do that, because I think it's obvious why you don't want to flush the toilet with the lid open. But even with the lid closed, I won't keep my toothbrush in the bathroom anywhere, even if it's in a medicine cabinet. I keep it somewhere else. Um, and packing, will, I have kind of a heavy coat because the weather is going to change depending on where I am. Like I was in, Spain in the winter, and then I've been in hot places in the summer. But my jacket takes up a lot of space, or sweatshirts and heavier clothes for colder climates. That takes up a lot of space. I will carry my heavy jacket, and I will also have like a poncho, and I will carry that as well if I feel I need to. And um, Even if it's, I'm in a hot climate, I'll just carry it through the airport. And sometimes a plane can get cold, and it's kind of nice to have it, you know, like a blanket on your lap or whatever. Um, but it saves suitcase space. And what I'll take, my other big thing is my bathrobe. It's kind of thick. So I will kind of lay that in my suitcase, and then I roll all my clothes. I just found that works the best for me. And then for all my things like socks and underwear and things like that, I'll keep those in little, oh, what do you call them? You can use bags that you can get the air out. Some people prefer that. I didn't like that, so I stopped using those and I gave them to one of my hosts. But I used the little compartment type things, and then I'll keep all my incidentals and shampoos and things like that in those. And I'll pack those on one side of my suitcase, and then I'll roll all my clothes. And I've tried laying them flat, and I've tried rolling them, and it just seems like I can fit so much more in my suitcase if it's rolled. And then I'll have that inside my robe, and then I just kind of fold my robe over the top after I've packed everything. And that has worked really, really well for me. I've packed quite a bit now, and I get more efficient every single time. And that seems to work the best for me. I want to talk about, I'm not done with that. Let's see. There's one more thing I wanted to say. I downloaded a lot of apps that were suggested before I left. And you'll find you won't need as many as you think. And you won't need them in every country. Like I don't use Bolt. I'll need it in another country, but I don't need it where I've been or where I am so far. You might need Uber, but then you don't. I will get rid of the apps that I don't use. You don't need a ton of maps. You don't need a ton of, because there's a lot of different apps. You don't need a ton of translation apps or exchanging how to, figure out the currency exchange type things or the language exchange. You really only need to pick your favorite one. So I would just try some out and then just delete those apps from your phone that you don't use, or, because I had way too many. And, you may not need there's like a train line app. You may not need that in certain countries. But I just found I could look up information for most of these things while I was there, and I didn't need the app. Let's see. So just try and keep it simple on your phone. The last thing I want to talk about is there's a lot of people talk about this, and I tried Trusted Housesitters. I joined, paid the fee and joined, and before I left last August, because I left in September, and so I signed up for that. I was a professional pet sitter for years before I left the country and before I left the United States. And so I thought this will be great because I could find free accommodations in different countries and also get my little fix of pet love, because I miss not having a pet. And so I signed up, and I didn't really use it right away, and because I planned a lot of my travels way in advance. And when I finally decided I wanted to go to the UK before I went to Montenegro, and for the summer I decided I was going to try the UK, and I because it was a little cooler. And so I started looking at trusted house sitters. And I'm saying I think this is a great alternative for a lot of people, and a lot of people are using it very successfully. But in my experience, it was better on paper. It sounded better on paper because you have to really, really um, figure out where you're going to go, and where you're going to go after the first house sit if you get accepted. First, you have to interview for all of these. And like I said, I had references and years of experience. And I only had one person who wanted to hire me out of a number of interviews. So you have to get hired, and it's just a matter of whether they get a feel for you and like you, basically. And then, you might only find a pet sit in one part of the country, and it might be for 5 days. You might get lucky and get a month here and 2 weeks here and that kind of thing. But then you have to find the next one, and then it might be way across the country, a day's train ride or something like that, or bus or whatever. Or you're going to another country and you have another pet sit in another country, and then you've got a plane ride or something like that. But you have to figure all these out. And then if you aren't blessed enough to, or you're not been doing this for so long that you're so popular that people are calling on you, and you have, most unlimited choices, which I think some people do because they've done it for so long. But first of all, yeah, you have to get people to hire you. Then you have to figure out where the next sit's going to be. And what I found just for myself, and I'm not saying don't try this, I think that it can be a very good way to get free accommodation and be able to be around animals if you really like animals. But for me, it was like there was too much. It was so difficult to try and find sit after sit after sit where I wasn't going to end up paying for travel and a hotel accommodation for maybe 3 days here or a week here. And then it would end up costing me more than if I just rented an Airbnb from it. So I'm not trying to diss this. I think that it can be a very good way to travel. But I just want to point out that it's not as simple, at least when you're first starting out. It's not as simple as it sounds on paper, because you also need to get the experience and have that backing behind you on the site. Now, I think it's a great thing to do also because if you do want to do that, because you have the backing of the trusted house sitters, and these people are vetted basically. Whereas if you just did it on your own, you don't know what you're getting into. And so, yeah, anyway, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, just to give kind of the other side to that, just so that you're aware that it's not just, I'm just going to go and travel the countries and get all these house sits. You can, but it's not as simple as it may sound, that you're just always going to have a place to stay where you're not paying. And you may have to pay in between. So just be aware of that. So those are the extra truths. I think I've hit all of them so far that I've encountered, that a lot of people don't talk about. And, the dull knives, broken water heaters, the power cuts, which can happen in a lot of European countries in the summer. I know in South Africa that happens. They'll warn you about that too. They'll intermittently cut out the power. Surprise closures, things like that, the bugs, whatever. The noise, it's not always glamorous, it's real. But once you accept those things and the quirks and all of that, it does become part of the adventure, and it makes for great stories. Like, I had a little story on TikTok about my snake adventure. But you know, it's about living life somewhere else. You know, like I said, I'm not on vacation. I'm living life in different countries. And it's exciting and sometimes it's nerve-wracking, but you know, there's good, there's bad, and weird. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I hope this video helped you and maybe gave you some insight into things you might not be prepared for. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm definitely saying I'm so glad I'm doing this, but there are surprises along the way. So just be prepared. Be prepared. At any rate, thank you for watching my video. I'll see you soon.